I need everybody to clear the stage right now. The best priest that there is. Bump what you heard. I see some of y'all getting nervous, but see us, we're a different breed. Just know that we getting active. Through his connections with Angra, we've seen him carry grail mud in his hands and use it as a projectile. As long as the mud is in his presence, this same mud is said to have unlimited range, working very similar to lava and burning anything that it touches. Just coming in contact with the mud had Shiro's ankle going numb. If you think that's something, he can summon 10s of these at the same time. Shiro further tells us that any part of the body that gets covered in mud loses sensation as well. He's been shown manipulating these, wrapping them around Shiro's body like chains. After a part of the body receives contact, the muscles get destroyed the moment you try to use them. The mud itself is magical energy specialized in destroying humans. It has a passive effect that turns pain and fear into more energy. In the Fate route specifically, it's stated that this can't be blocked conceptually and it has to be circumvented in other ways. You had the bad end where Shiro failed to get around this and he died from being completely drowned in the mud. Although they may just appear as short swords, we're told that his black keys can pierce through reinforced concrete. He has a cunningness like no other, tricking his own mentor Tokiomi and stabbing him in the back with his own weapon like the punk bitch that he is. He faked his own death against Maya to get the upper hand and shoot her with his black key. He has no remorse whatsoever, stabbing Kirisugu's wife straight through the stomach when the battle was already won. His black keys have a passive effect that allows them to bind a spiritual target. We saw him use this in his fight against Hassan. In his fight against Maya, we saw him constantly overwhelming her despite the fact that she's ex-military. Even when he defeated Maya and she tried to make one last attack, Kirei still launched her across the field before she could pull this off. You have Kirei's fighting style, Super Baji Schwan, where he combines normal Baji Schwan with Magecraft. Just the sheer impact behind one of these blows was enough to break at least 3 of Maya's ribs when he attacked. Here's one for the books. How about the time that Irisville had Kirei trapped against a tree? So he broke the entire tree in half just to get away. This man ain't human. Again, the story tells us that the tree was no less than a foot wide. In his fight with Kirisugu, he punched Kirisugu so hard that he crushed his heart and his lung, practically killing him. The only reason he survived is because he had Avalon, so you can just imagine what Maya was going through without it. He was ready and willing to break his own foot to make sure that this blow landed. In the consultation room, Irie explains that he can use his command spells to strengthen his blows in a similar fashion to Monoburst. From the Q&A, we know that he was stronger than Bazette back in his prime. In a similar fashion to Kirisugu, he pulverized Shiro's organs and kicked him several meters into the air. Despite him being human, he was still strong enough to shoulder charge Cursed Arm into a stone wall. By using his black key, he had the precision to knock Maya's gun out her hand while she was shooting him. He tactfully planted Zoken head first into the roof of the church, then exercised his body. That get back from Fate Zero is delicious. His black keys were precise enough to exterminate 2 Dragon 2 warriors at moments notice while he was being shot. His physical strength is insane. He had enough power to throw Shiro through a 3rd-story window of a castle back in Heaven's Field. He then proceeds to climb up 4 stories of the castle, which is equivalent to 8 stories in a normal house. He jumped the same distance coming back down and still was unscathed. In the bad end, when Shiro chose to opt out the war, Shiro describes Kirei's magecraft to feel like getting your arm ripped off. In the Fate Zero novel, it's described that Kirei's fighting ability is on the same level as a dead apostle. In his fight against Shiro, he tanked 7 blows from him back to back while being reinforced by Archer's arm. His tenacity is one that can't be replicated. The story tells us that he's wounded his body several times until it was forged like iron. Not only did he deflect multiple bullets with the help of his reinforced Kevlar suit, but he also disarmed Maya while she had a knife and a gun and stomped her on the ground. The story tells us that more so than the suit itself, the reason he tanked the bullets was because of the sheer training he had done on his body. Irie mentions how his body is like steel, and it took every ounce of magical energy that she had just to hold him down. Not only are his clothes made of Kevlar, but they're also laced from head to toe in protection spells by the church. This dude was straight up tanking sniper shots from Maya, which were described to feel like metal bats. In his fight against Kirisugu, he took a bullet straight to the dome, and since it was shot at a bad angle, he ate that too. What? Then tanked an onslaught of bullets right after that. When Kirisugu tried to use his origin bullets, Kirei tactfully used 2 command spells to speed up his movements and deflect a fatal attack by sacrificing his arm. Even while he's fighting with one arm, he tanked a blow to the stomach and a knife to the leg and didn't bat an eye. When he did the same thing against Hassan in Heaven's Field, he just looked at Hassan's dagger like, I guess that was supposed to hurt? He was straight up tanking having his bones and his flesh destroyed from Shiro due to his body being made of swords. He has a notable endurance, being able to survive after Sakura crushed his fake heart. This same fake heart allowed him to negate Cursed Arms Phantasm, which requires you to have a real functioning heart to take effect. From case files, we know that strengthening spells have little to no effect on your endurance, so when he's surviving, it's literally because he's just that good. Back against Maya, before he was blocking the bullets, he was dodging them back to back at moment's notice. He also could identify the type of weapon it was just from hearing the sound of the bullets. In the original scene where he exercised Zoken, he jumped 10 meters into the air just to snatch him out of tree. In another interaction with Maya, he was cutting bullets out of the air at the last second. In his fight against Shiro, he repositioned his body while mid-air to avoid fatal damage. He deflected multiple bullets from Kirisugu's machine gun with ease. His natural superhuman speed was so overwhelming that he forced Kirisugu to alter time just to dodge one of his kicks. Despite Kirisugu multiplying his speed 3 times, Kirei was still able to react with his damaged arm on top of that. When Medea tried to ambush him with her Dragon Tooth warriors from several angles, he crushed all of them with no effort. When he was running to safety in the forest while holding Ilya, he still was able to block one of Hassan's bullet speed daggers. Even when Hassan tried to fire 3 at a time, Kirei just knocked them all to the side. He outpaced Hassan, an entire servant, at close range, then blocked another dagger while he was using presence concealment. In the forest, it's stated that he blocked at least 20 daggers from Hassan and counting. In his fight against Shiro, Shiro mentions the time where Kirei was moving so fast that he couldn't even see him. From Kirisugu's profile, we know that he can fire his black keys in a split second, and prior to Fate Zero, he was stated to have 100% inaccuracy. That includes the people that he couldn't see. He really doesn't miss. The novel tells us that even some veterans would be shook if they were getting shot from a concealed location. Kirei, on the other hand, didn't break a sweat. It only helped him analyze the situation. It tells us that his mind far surpasses the speed of a bullet. You want to talk about doing the race? This man was running 100 meters per 7 seconds while carrying Ilya and going through a forest with several obstacles in the way. If that wasn't already impressive enough, he used 0 magical energy while he was doing this. In the novel, he tells us that he has a unique attribute for opening wounds. We've seen him use this on Karia in Fate Zero just to save him for greater destruction. What a hero. He's very precise with his goals. He will help his own enemy if that means that he'll come out on top at the end. He gave Irisville just enough magical energy to survive because he thought it would be useful. He has a specialized knowledge in making spiritual treatments to a person of his choosing. From the Fate route, we know that he kept all the children alive that survived with Shiro and tactfully used them as magical energy for Gilgamesh between Fate Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night. He used his power to save the woman that was attacked by Medusa despite the fact that she had a damaged soul. We know that he purified Sakura of the poison that came out of her earrings in Heaven's Field. Had he not done this, then she would have lost her life early. He also used his entire magic crest to remove the crest worm that would further damage Sakura's nerves. Again, this is equivalent to an actual surgery, and someone who didn't have the talent could have easily killed her. When Shiro lost his original arm in Heaven's Field, Kirei was the one to use this power and give him Archer's arm as a new one. Through the conversations at the church, we also know that he purified Ren's poison as well. When Shiro got stabbed several times by Julian in Prisma Ilia, Kirei was the one that healed him. Being a conceptual weapon of the church, we know that the blade from Kirei's black keys are made from magical energy. He tactfully used one of his command spells to put more magical energy into his keys and make them twice their original size to tank Kirisugu's origin bullet. As a supervisor, he has the ability to give out command spells, replenishing the ones that belong to Karia. Even between the 10-year gap of Zero and Stay Night, he was still very calculated about the way that he used his spells. Despite the fact of only having one arm and eating a bullet straight to the head, he was still overwhelming Kirisugu with his martial arts while he was using his combat knife. A monster, I tell you, it's absurd. He tactfully threw multiple black keys from different directions in advance so Kirisugu couldn't escape. Just one shot from Kirei's black keys was enough to put down the bat familiar with Maya. From the interactions with Ren, not only do we know that he defeated Bazette, but we also know that he stole her servant and became the new master of Cucullin. Her profile also tells us that he chopped off her entire arm to perform this. In the Fate route, he easily gutted Ren and defeated her just using his own merits. Nasu also mentions despite her technically being the better mage, he would still beat her 80% of the time. He further tells us that even though Ciel is outright stronger, he believes that he would beat her original version too. As I mentioned in my Kirisugu video, Irie tells us that Kirei has a good chance of beating Assassin or a caster up close. From the side material, we know that Kirei was an instructor to Ren and taught her how to use martial arts. They grow up so fast. By the time that he was an adult, he had already taken the lives of at least 20 mages with pure skill alone. As an executor, which is literally the bloodiest department of the church, Kirisugu labels Kirei as first degree in taking people's lives. Just being in his presence makes people insecure and start to reveal their weakness. He has a unique ability to share senses with his own servant, being able to see and listen through persona in Fate Zero. He had the awareness to discern the illusions that were created by Irie. In Fate Zero, he was able to sense Zoken before he physically showed himself. He was able to sense Ilya's arrival to the church without anyone telling him. On top of Kirei being a problem on the field, he's also highly intelligent. He skipped 2 grades and graduated as valedictorian for his college. Then you have the fact that he was the most studious out of all of his colleagues as an executor. He's skilled in alchemy, necromancy, summoning, divination, and even better at healing than Tokiomi, reaching near mastery in everything that he did. It was so bad that Kirisugu was convinced that he was a tryhard. Then you have his roles as a pseudo-servant under the alien god. You know how the saying goes, you only get one time to make a first impression, and what better way to start the Lost Belts than piercing Da Vinci straight through the heart, crushing her spiritual core with his bare hand. He has access to Koyanskaya's RPG, which we know can deal heavy damage even through magecraft armor. This is implied to be stronger than shots from a tank. In this form, Da Vinci has flat out said that he was running over 90 kilometers an hour. He outran our entire team on foot while we were using a vehicle, and he was carrying Kadok at the same time. We know that he also stabbed Kadok in the heart in a similar fashion to the way he did Da Vinci. From Koyanskaya, we know that he fought against proper history servants in the Grecian seas. From Lost Belt 5, we know that at least 20 servants were summoned, and just Muramasa and Rasputin working together were able to take down all of them. From Salieri, we know that he has an ability to manipulate memories. Kadok tells us that even Wotome couldn't control him despite his great prowess. Tsiah mentions that he has a level of clairvoyance, being able to see into the future. And the greatest feat of all, he tanked the sheer spiciness of the Mapo tofu with no drink. He's a menace. Imagine me saying anything bad at all about one of the best characters in fiction. An expert martial artist, one of the strongest humans in the series, one of the smartest humans in the series, the top of his class. He's not clouded by judgment due to him being a psychopath. He's out here bodying people left and right. Let's be honest, if Kirei doesn't deserve the A rank, nobody deserves the A rank. Team YOROKOBE all day. You wish you were this good. Oh, you don't like him, he's too evil. Well, it's a good thing we didn't ask you, you bozo. And by the way, evil is good.